Let me ask you a question about that. This is an inside the Beltway question. One of the things that I notice all the time, and I live outside the Beltway, but one of the things I notice all the time in the Republican Party and in the president is the attitude, as you said, is the attitude in the media about the Trump people. I mean, what do they think of the Trump people? Because it always amazes me when I hear people call. I mean, I don't think Howard Lutnick's a very popular guy. He's probably not a guy you want to hang out with at the club, but he's not dumb, and he's worth hundreds of millions of dollars. What is it about the Trump people that the elite media doesn't? That's a deep question. But what do you think it is about them? They just don't like him. They just, I mean, besides the politics, and really the politics of Trump, George Bush was further to the right than Donald Trump, and Mitt Romney was further to the right than Donald Trump. What is it about the Trump and the Trump people that just drive them insane?
I don't know, but what is it about Elon Musk, right? The left loved Elon Musk. They embraced Elon Musk. He was saving Ukraine with his Starlink. He had the Tesla cars, the EVs, the wave of the future. He's good. We're going to be on Mars. Like, Elon Musk is such a wise billionaire that's going to revolutionize the world. And he goes into the Trump administration and starts, finding waste, fraud, and abuse. And now I think his name is more hated than Donald Trump's is among the left. So they've made him a boogeyman. And why is Elon Musk a boogeyman? For saving our taxpayer dollars, for identifying programs that have no value in the federal government. And then you have your Democrats defending just the dumbest grants to countries with no purpose. And I think the majority of Americans see through it. And they're just like, there is no hatred, but the elite media, and they are part of, they like going to their cocktail parties. They like having those invitations be spread to them. They want control of Washington, D.C. And so in order to gain that power and access, they've got to toe the line with whatever the narrative is on the left. And so they'll go with it. And it's hate Trump. And I don't know why they're not. Donald Trump's cabinet, by and large, is very, very impressive, filled with people who have had great accomplishments, and they don't get the respect that they deserve. Now, there are exceptions. Everything needs to be a show in Trump world, and sometimes the show gets to be too much, and it distracts from the seriousness of their mission. I'd say Kristi Noem is an example of that.
I'm with Megyn Kelly on that.
I really am. It's just like, you have a very serious mission. DHS is doing an amazing work at the border. You've got the numbers to prove it. You don't need to go out on these raids late night in your ice vest and with your hair perfectly done and your makeup. Like, you don't need to do that show. And then Pam Bondi stepped in it when she was like, oh, we're going to have the Epstein released. And they brought in a bunch of influencers, and it turned out to be nothing. It's like, why do that stuff? It distracts from all of the great work that you're doing. But then you've got, the Linda McMahons, you got the Howard Lutnicks, you've got the Scott Bessents, you've got a great team over at Energy, Chris Wright, Interior, Doug Burgum, that are really approaching their jobs with the conviction to change, the course of this country into what Donald Trump promised on the campaign trail. But the media won't recognize that, because to recognize that would be giving Trump legitimacy, and that's the last thing we want to do.
You forgot on your list of maybe less than perfect cabinet secretaries, Pete Hegseth, who I've argued, looks like he may have been like a Swiss male prostitute who should be at the Gestalt Alpina.
Yeah, it's more photo op-y than it is. But that is Trump's world, and he does like that.
Yeah, well, and the interesting thing on policy, Hegseth has done, I think, great as far as bringing the warrior ethos, terrific, DEIing the Pentagon, that's awesome. It's just when it comes to the actual management part of the job of transforming the military in light of what we've seen in Ukraine, which is that we really are in a drone warfare world, and things like these $13 billion aircraft carriers, carrier group with 6,000 or 7,000 guys and gals who are extremely vulnerable just isn't going to work. And maybe we shouldn't wait until there's a tragedy to start making changes. He's not the guy to do that. But you're right. Bessent is, I'd say, our best treasurer. I sort of go back with best secretaries of state, and you sort of come to Schultz in the Reagan administration. He was pretty good, although, he squished down a few things. I think he was against saying tear down this wall. So then you have to go back even further to John Foster Dulles. With Treasury, you have to go back really, really far. I don't think Don Regan was terribly good, or Reagan's guys were great. Both Bush's guys, terrible. Trump's first one, Mnuchin, I think people liked him personally, but he seemed to be kind of a panda hugger, and that he was the voice in the room weakening what Trump wanted to do on China. So some really good choices there. Do you Kelly, draw any sort of conclusions with the trajectory of the administration? I mean, it seems like Trump is actually, we're only at, 90, 95 days here. But whereas in previous ones, you saw the writing on the wall, there was going to be high turnover among national security advisors. You knew the SecDefs and Sec states at the beginning were not going to be there at the end. Do you think there's going to be a lot of turnover? Do you think Trump is more willing just to stick it out with his teams throughout the term?
Well, I was worried for Mike Walls there for a bit, and the whole signal leak that was just embarrassing in the way. How do you get one of the most adversarial reporters on your cell phone and add him into a group chat with all of the highest, national security figures in the world? So I don't know. I don't know his longevity. I think it's good that when he left his Florida seat that we maintained that. I think if we would have lost that seat to a Democrat, he would have been done. But so he's got time. Hegseth is going to have to prove himself capable of managing the biggest bureaucracy within the federal government and not be backstabbed by people who careers working in there, and also be able to have success in reforming it the way that Donald Trump wants. And God forbid we do something in Iran. God forbid Russia makes some sort of move where we have to counter. That's what concerns me. There is his just lack of experience in that role, lack of familiarity around the Pentagon itself. So I'm not sure about his longevity. Lutnick has got a big mouth, and I love New Yorkers. I do. I love his sort of New York. I love it. But he's not a good spokesman for the administration. And it'd be best if he were more like a Wilbur Ross and just kind of executed the vision instead of being out there on the television shows. I think that Kevin Hassett delivers a great economic message.
Always smiles. Kevin always smiles, no matter what he's talking about.
We could be in nuclear war and, 3, 2, 1. And Kevin would be like, what's up? Just pull through it and just hug your loved ones. It's funny, but like Scott Bassett, I also enjoyed listening to his interviews because there's always more strategy behind what he's saying. He always gives smart answers. I think we're going to see Peter Navarro was able to stick it through all 4 years in Trump's first administration, so I don't expect him to go anywhere, though his visibility might be reduced. But then he'll come back up again, depending on what happens with China. So it's always like this. But I would say the top, and I don't know how much Rubio can take at state. I don't think he doesn't look like he's enjoying his job very much.
He does not look like he's enjoying it.
Everyone always looks better when they leave that building.
He runs for governor. I think he runs for governor just to get out. I told somebody that. Yeah. I think whether he wins or loses at governor, if he loses at governor, he goes down and sits on all those sugar plantation boards and he likes to fish and goes fishing and has his life, and his wife's finally happy that they've got some money in the house and things like that, But I do tend to agree with you. My biggest issue with all of these people, my issue with Christine Noem, to be honest with you, is a loyalty issue to the president. That's my issue there. She looks ridiculous. Megyn Kelly's right. She's got lash extensions on. I'm sorry, I don't know all that well. She's got hair extensions.
Extensions.
She's running around. She's holding a weapon improperly that I can see. She's standing in front of these prisoners. And so my point is like, it's almost like a campaign against gravitas. Mm-hmm. And, that she's got someone in her ear, it's almost like, someone from the Miracle on 34th Street, the guy who's the political advisor, the big cigar in her ear saying, you got to get more airtime. You got to get more airtime. And I'm like, we've got the most important thing coming up after they've closed the border. In fairness to the people who work on our border, and I hate to sound like someone just campaigning, they knew what to do all along, and Trump just said, do it. And then they did it, and then magically the border drops. You know what I'm saying? And the Mexicans are given the message, the Panamanians are given the message, and it stopped. But we have the de minimis coming up, which is stopping those packages coming, and that's a massive issue. That has turned into almost $100 billion in terms of things that are coming in through these mail all over the world, and she's got to try. That's her bailiwick. That's what she's got to manage. You don't see her standing out there in that because that's boring. So I mean, my point is like your job is to serve the president. That's one of the things I think Pete will probably be pretty good on. I think he knows he's there. My understanding is he wanted maybe to be Secretary of the Army. That was his hope.
That would be good.
And then Trump upgraded him. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
But it's a loyalty thing, and I think that's where we miss. And I'm going to bring up the family. I think we're missing three people right now, very seriously in this family. I think we're missing Ivana, the daughter. We're missing his daughter,
Ivanka.
We're missing the son-in-law, Jared, and we're missing Eric. Because I think those, what?
Why do you say that?
Because I think those three basically looked out for their father. And I think when you have anything in there, it's like, I'll go back, way, way back. And it's like, who had Ronald Reagan's back? Nancy. Who was the one person in Bush 1 White House, the H. Bush, you did not want to get on Barbara's bad side. Okay. And you look at, in fairness to the Clintons, all these people, Reagan had he had his California cabinet. Remember those people? They were around him. You're much younger than I, but you too. But I mean, he had the California cabinet. Clinton had his guys around him. Obama, the first term, had a lot of really good people around him. And then, he got more of the ideologues in my mind in the second term. But my point is, I think the fact of the matter is that what they would do is they would keep an eye out for some of these people who are basically freelancing a little bit. In other words, I don't know why Charlie Kirk and Don, they need to go to Greenland. Why do they need to go to Greenland? You know what I'm saying? Or somebody needs to call Christine in the room and say, Christine, we don't need to see you in your silly little hat anymore out there. Your job is to put on a pantsuit and, just like Janet Reno, and go over and do your job. And I think all the time there, my issue is really about serving your boss. And the President Trump is really doing historic things. I'm out here in Asia, and guys, I get so much grief about, he's killing VOA. He's killing Radio Free Asia. Now, I have some use for Radio Free Asia just because basically it hasn't been completely corrupted. But Voice of America was basically a left-wing Democratic machine, and they went after Trump, and now they're getting it. The other thing is, I have to say, I've dealt with a lot of, probably many more than most people, a lot of tyrants. I've never had somebody come up to me and say, or Duterte or the guys in Thailand say, you got to get rid of that Voice of America thing. In other words, it was basically a job for him.